Hello, I am Pramod Kumar. Today we will discuss macroeconomics. Chapter is National Income Accounting, and the topic is some basic concepts of macroeconomics. So, how do we start it? It starts from Adam Smith, who is called the founder of economics, right? So, in macroeconomics, they ask certain major questions like what generates the economic wealth of a nation? What generates the economic wealth of a nation? Right? Second thing, what makes countries rich or poor? What makes countries rich or poor? Right? So you would have seen there are several countries very rich in natural resources but otherwise very poor. On the other hand, you will find several other countries which have very scarce natural resources but they are very prosperous. So there is no direct correlation between having much of natural resources and having wealth of a nation or well-being of a nation, right? So how does it go? It writes, the economic wealth or well-being of a country doesn't necessarily depend on the mere possession of resources. So what are the two factors important here? They are, the point is how these resources are used in generating a flow of production, right? Whatever resources I have, you may have as a country or other country, still another country. So it depends how they are generating a flow of production out of those resources, right? Another question is, and how as a consequence of generating that flow of production, how income and wealth are generated from that process, right? How the countries are generating income and wealth for that process. Now, how does the flow of production go? Suppose we are the people. So we combine our energy, mental, physical energy, capabilities, capacity with the natural resources and man-made resources to produce goods and services, right? We combine with natural resources, man-made resources to produce goods and services. That way goods and services are produced. And whatever goods and services are produced, they are produced with a purpose to sell them in the market, right? Everything is to be finally sold in the market, right? And these production processes are carried out by very, very large companies, very, very small companies and very large number of individuals, right? They carry on. One-man enterprises, multinational corporations employing very large number of people, right? Then what happens? Here, the consumer could be an individual, an enterprise or a multinational corporation, right? And the same way the supplier or the producer of goods and services could be an individual, an enterprise or a multinational corporation depending upon their need, right? So what happens? Suppose we are producing, so there is a cycle of production, or something goes from stage 1 to 2 to 3 and 4. And then we get some final goods. We call it final goods. Right now I am wearing this shirt, right? So it is a final good. What is a final good? Suppose this is the book. This is a final good. This is the whiteboard. This is the final good. What is the final good? A good is called a final good when it is not going to be transformed through any other production process. Suppose I have bought this shirt for wearing. It is not undergoing any other transformation through any other production process. This is the book I have purchased. This book is not going to undergo any further transformation through any other production process. Same way for this blackboard, right? So, a good that is not going to be put through any further transformation through any production process is called final good. So, the moment we talk about final good, intermediate goods come into picture. What are the intermediate goods? Intermediate goods are those goods which help in the production of final goods, which are used as an input in production of certain final goods. Suppose steel sheet. It's an intermediate good and it is used for manufacturing of automobiles. Copper. Copper is an intermediate good. It is used for the production of utensils or so many other things. So those goods which help in the production of final goods as an input or as inputs are called intermediate goods. So when we calculate final output in an economy, what do? We calculate the value of final goods. Why? Though intermediate goods are very important, very essential, and we employ a lot of labor and resources including capital for the production of intermediate goods, they are not calculated while computing for the value of final goods, because intermediate goods have already been taken care of while taking the value of the final goods, right? So if we consider intermediate goods from the viewpoint of value, we will be doing the error of double counting. Intermediate good will be counted as intermediate good also and plus as a part of final good also, so far as value is concerned. So we will be exaggerating the value of final goods by the value of this amount, right? So in order to avoid error of double counting, we don't consider the value of intermediate goods while calculating the value of final goods in an economy, right? Then certain characteristics of final goods. Suppose we buy tea leaf. I buy tea leaf for my home. Though it is final goods, it undergoes some transformation in my kitchen. We don't consume tea leaf just like that. It undergoes some process of tea brewing before we get a cup of tea, right? When I buy, it is a final good. It does undergo some transformation in my kitchen. Same way for several kitchen items. We buy several kitchen items from grocery stores. Most of them are not consumed as it is. They are consumed through some process in the kitchen. But since food prepared in our kitchen is not sold, it is not for sale, it doesn't have economic value, right? If the same tea leaf is used in a restaurant for preparing tea and selling it to customers, it will be considered as an input. Input for their preparing the tea and selling it to customers. In my kitchen, it is final good. In a restaurant, it is an input. Same way for food items in kitchen, right? If it is used in a restaurant, it is an input. If it is used in the house, it is final good, right? So that's the difference between final good, and despite being final good, they are not final good in the sense that they need to undergo some process before you consume it, right? Then there is a very important point. It says it's not in the nature of the good, not in the nature of the particular good, but in the economic nature of its use. Right? Right? It's not in the nature of the good, but in the economic nature of its use that a good becomes a final good. Right? I showed you the difference between tea leaf at my kitchen, tea leaf in a restaurant, kitchen food items in my kitchen, and kitchen food items for a restaurant. Right? So that's the difference. Then of the final goods we have consumer goods as well as capital goods, right? Consumer goods, capital goods. What are consumer goods? Food, clothing, right? This book, this duster, this pen, these are consumer goods which we consume on a day-to-day basis, right? Sugar, milk, tea, coffee, rice, pulses, wheat, consumer goods, right? Another is capital goods. In consumer goods also we have of two kinds. One which we consume like rice, pulse, milk, tea, sugar. Another is consumer durables. Consumer durables stay for a longer period and they need to be preserved, maintained, repaired or replaced finally. Other things, they are not there for the long term. What are the capital goods? Capital goods, they are instruments, equipments, machines, offices, warehouses, right? Airports, bridges, roads, jetties. These are the capital goods, right? Instruments, equipments, machines. What happens? Instruments, equipments, machines, they are very unique. Though they are final goods, they are not used in the process of for whatever they are used. Equipments, instruments, machines are used for further production of goods, services, commodities. But they are not consumed in the process. They help in the process of manufacturing of goods and services. But they do undergo wear and tear over a period of time out of use or disuse, but they are not directly consumed in the production process which they help, right? So what happens? These capital goods, they continue over a number of cycles of production. They are not consumed in a single cycle. They continue for a long period of time and go through several cycles of production, right? So consumer durables, as we had discussed, washing machines, dishwasher, refrigerators, those kind of things are consumer durables in our house. We consume them, but they stay for a long period of time as compared to food and clothing, right? So if we consider all the final goods and services produced in an economy, what happens in a given period of time? They are either in the form of consumption goods or capital goods, right? Either here or here, right? As final goods, they don't undergo any further transformation in the economic process. Suppose I bought this shirt. The moment I bought it, it has gone out of the active economic life. This shirt won't undergo any other transformation process through any production process. It will remain as shirt. That is final good, which doesn't undergo any further transformation through any other production process, right? And then we measure a common measuring rod for arriving at the value of final goods in an economy, because we are having cloth also which is computed in meters, we are having sugar also which is computed in kgs, and we are having soap also which is counted in numbers. So we need a common measuring rod, and that is money, rupee, that we do. Then the value of the final goods already includes the value of the intermediate goods, which we have already discussed. So we don't calculate the value of intermediate goods separately, despite being very important, in order to avoid the mistake of error of double counting, right? Now we need to know about stocks and flows. One is flows, another is stocks. What is flows? Suppose somebody says my income is 5,000 rupees. Somebody says my production is 1,000 metric tons. Somebody says I produce 10,000 footballs. But nobody talks of the time. Actually, talking about all these things without mentioning a time frame is of no use, because we won't be able to know what is the level, since no timeline is given. So, flows and stocks. There is a main difference. Flows are defined over a period of time, like income, profit, output, right? Flows are defined over a period of time, means you can say 2019, 2020, income or profit or output or all. So this is the over a period of time. And stocks at a particular point of time, right? Stocks are defined at a particular point of time. Now let us differentiate between these two. Suppose I have a factory, right? Today I start a factory. What is the year? Year is 2020, 2021, right? First year, second year, third year, fourth year. I buy one machine for 1 lakh rupees. Second year I buy another for 1 lakh. Third year still another for 1 lakh. And fourth year still another for 1 lakh. So, during the first year, this machine of 1 lakh is a flow. During all other subsequent years, it becomes stock, right? First year, I bought a machine for rupees 1 lakh. So during the year of purchase, this machine of rupees 1 lakh will be considered as a flow. In all subsequent years, this machine will be called a part of stock. Second year, I buy another machine of 1 lakh. So during that second year, this machine of 1 lakh is a part of flow. But for all subsequent years, this machine, second machine of 1 lakh rupees is a part of stock. Once again, third year I buy another machine for rupees 1 lakh. So during third year, this machine of 1 lakh is a part of flow. For all next subsequent years, this third machine of 1 lakh is a part of stock. Right? Flows, income, profit, output or whatever, in a period of time, over a period of time. Stocks at a particular point of time. Right? So I hope you are able to understand the stocks and flows. Right? A particular machine can be part of the capital stock for many years. Suppose I buy a machine, it is going to stay for 20 years. So it will be a part of a stock for 19 years. And the first year when it was installed, inducted into my factory, it will be a part of flow. For all other subsequent 19 years, it will be a part of stock. Right? Then we come back to our discussion on the measure of final output. So that part of our final output, we will be talking of gross investment. That part of our final output that comprises of capital goods constitutes gross investment, right? Mind the word gross investment. What we have done? Several things we have taken into picture, right? From the viewpoint of final output, but that part out of the total final output, which is in the form of capital goods, is called capital investment. Now, suppose as on 31/3/2020, India is having gross investment of 1 lakh crore of rupees. ₹1 lakh crore as on 31/3/2020. Next year, 2020-21, India produces 20,000 crore rupees of capital goods, right? So at the end of 31/3/21, what will be gross capital investment? Will it be 1,20,000 crore? No. Suppose India produced 20,000 crore rupees of capital goods during financial year 2021. The entire capital goods of 20,000 crore is not going to be added to the capital investment. A part of this will go towards repair, maintenance, replacement of the existing 1 lakh crore of investment, right? As on 31st March 2020, India is having 1 lakh crore of capital investment. Next year, during 2020-2021, India produces 20,000 crore rupees of capital goods. So at the end of 21, means 31/3/21, India doesn't have gross capital investment of 1,20,000 crore. If you say it is 1,20,000 crore, this is called gross, right? But what happens? This entire amount doesn't go for creation of new capital goods investment addition. This entire 20,000 is not added. We are having 1 lakh crore. So out of this machine, some will be repaired, maintained, replaced. So out of this 20,000, some will be used for repair, maintenance and replacement out of these. So suppose that amount is 10,000 crores. So here gross is 120,000 crore, and suppose less that repair, replacement, maintenance is 10,000 crore. So what will happen? We will get a figure of 1,10,000 crore, and that is called net investment, net capital investment, right? And this is called depreciation, right? What is depreciation? Depreciation, what we do, we suppose I am buying a machine today for 1 lakh rupees. It is going to continue for 20 years. So 1 lakh divided by 20 is equal to, every year my machine depreciates by 5,000 rupees. So what I do an accounting provision of 5,000 rupees each year, so that at the end of 20 years I don't have to spend suddenly 1 lakh rupees. right? So I keep on providing each year. It is a purely an accounting entry. This money each year 5,000 doesn't go out of the system of my business. It remains in the business, right? So depreciation of 10,000 crore, 1 lakh, this 20,000 new capital goods created, gross is 1,20,000, 10,000 is repair, maintenance, replacement out of this. So when we reduce that 10,000 depreciation, net capital investment is 1,10,000 as at the end of 31/3/21, right? Then depreciation is an annual allowance for wear and tear of machinery, capital goods. Depreciation is an annual allowance for wear and tear, repair and maintenance of the machinery, like, right? Depreciation is only an accounting concept, right? This money doesn't go out of my system. My business 5,000 doesn't go every year. It remains in the business. But I provide so that at the end of 20 years, I don't find myself in a difficulty to replace such a huge asset, right? So, at a single point of time, so thousands of enterprises, lakhs of enterprises keep on repairing, maintaining, replacing. So we presume that every year we will have some amount of this thing at economy level. I am talking this thing in the economy. Some will be repairing, some will be maintaining, some will be replacing, right? So that will be there. Then when we go back to our discussion of final goods produced in an economy, we say that output of consumer goods, services, output of capital goods, like consumer goods, services and capital goods. So goods and services we will talk only in words of goods, not every time we will not talk goods and services. We talk good about goods and services both, right? So here what happens? The consumer goods sustain the consumption, right? So you will find consumer goods are purchased by us, people like me and you. Capital goods are purchased by enterprises, firms, companies, because they have to increase their business, add to their manufacturing capacities. So either an economy is producing consumption goods or capital goods or both. It depends upon the priorities of the economy. Suppose that in a particular year an economy is producing more of consumer goods, it means that they are producing less of capital goods. Other way around, if an economy is producing more of capital goods, they are producing less of consumer goods. So producing more of capital goods today will help in increasing the production tomorrow, because capital goods help a laborer to produce more efficiently, effectively and in larger quantities, right? So when we have to see this, in respect of demand, one thing we need to be very mindful. Demand must be backed by purchasing power. Suppose I am demanding a car, but I don't have a purchasing power. So the market will not recognize my demand for car. A demand needs to be backed by adequate purchasing power. A demand which is not backed by adequate purchasing power is not recognized by the market as a demand, right? So, and how does the, see, I am there, suppose I am earning X amount of money, so that is my capacity to buy commodities, and this capacity comes from my earning, right? And how does this earning come? When companies want to produce, so what do they need? They need factors of production. What are the factors of production? Land, labor, capital and entrepreneur, right? They need this. So to land they pay rent, laborer they pay wages, capital they pay interest, and entrepreneur they pay profit. So when they use these things, they have to pay them. So the money goes from firms to the factors of production. And when the factors of production work, they produce goods and services. So when factors of production get money, they need to spend this for meeting their requirement, their needs. So this money goes from the factors of production to the firms, and goods go from the firms to the factors of production. So there is a causation effect, causation relationship, circular causation, right? Companies need land, labor, capital, entrepreneur to produce. When they engage this, companies pay rent to land, wages to labor, interest to capital, profit to entrepreneur. They produce, they pay, produce. When the goods are produced, factors of production, land, labor, they need to buy goods and services to meet their needs. So they spend the money, and that money goes from the factors of production to the firms. So firms get money and they sell the products to the factors of production, and companies have produced the goods only from the viewpoint of selling it, right? So there is a circular causation here between the factors of production and this thing, right? The capital goods add to or maintain the capital stock of an economy, and thus make production of other commodities possible. Capital goods are meant for that, right? So we have discussed consumer goods, including consumer durables, capital goods, which help in production of further goods. So I hope you found it easy to understand. In case of any difficulty, please do approach me on my email ID, which will be there at the thumbnail to the video. Thank you very much.